What up, guys? If you're new here, I'm Jake, and I'm currently settling into my new software engineering role at Google, and I need help with the most basic things, which reminds me of when I was a brand new dev. So, since I'm already in the mentality of being a hopelessly new dev, I might as well share my story of how I went from a delivery driver at Jimmy John's with no college degree to a software engineer at Google. When I graduated from high school, I wanted to be a DJ and produce electronic music. The problem is, music, and especially EDM, has become a very saturated industry over the past 20 years. On top of that, I was really only interested in making a few types of niche subgenres that didn't have a large audience. This was a tough pill for me to swallow because I wanted to be a professional musician my whole life. After 4 years of doing bike delivery for Jimmy John's and making beats at night, I finally decided something had to change. Weirdly enough, my parents actually helped on this one. They recommended I look into tech because when I was younger I wanted to be an animator and my music was all done via computer, so I was pretty good with computers. One of my roommates at the time had a coding background and pointed me in the direction of coding boot camps. I won't lie, I was pretty desperate, and the marketing for the boot camps was really good, and it made me feel like, I'd become rich overnight. So I quit my job, took out a personal loan, and started the boot camp. Now, the tuition was probably the most money I had ever spent or committed to spend in my life. This forced me to take the boot camp very seriously. I woke up early, wore my best shoes and button-ups, and stayed late at all my classes. I even bussed for an hour and a half each way to the boot camp for a few weeks until I got a ride from a classmate. It was tough. Every day I was running low on money. I was eating plain white rice I microwaved in a bowl, and I had to ask my roommates if they would take some of my rent payments if I cleaned the house for them weekly. In the grand scheme of things, I know this really isn't that big of a deal. I'm just illustrating the point that this was tough for me. When the boot camp was over and I got my first interview, I completely bombed the whiteboard questions. Dejected, I bussed home, looking like a sad puppy in a suit. But surprisingly, I got a call back and an insultingly low salary offer to become a junior software engineer. I knew I needed experience, and I really knew I needed the money, so I took the job at what must have been slightly higher than minimum wage. Due to complete luck, I was selected to become part of a vendor team at Microsoft and shipped off to Microsoft campus after only 2 weeks. This is where I would get my first hands-on experience in the industry. The first year on that Microsoft team was the greatest culture shock of my career. Here I was doing things I learned about only 6 months ago with people who had 10 or 20 years of experience. They had schooling, they had experience, they had prestige, and I had nothing. It was a very humbling experience to go in every day, keep my head down, and just try to contribute anything I could. This is the time where I had to try my hardest to close the gap between myself and my coworkers. It's also when I co-founded a startup with the roommate I mentioned earlier, which became Sorobo. After about 2 years on the Microsoft team and a lot of haggling to get my salary up to a reasonable wage, I was approached by another company. This small company gave me a very passable offer and an opportunity to join a development team that would put me in the driver's seat of development. I was admittedly pretty tired of the corporate politics of Microsoft and excited to become a full-fledged software engineer, so I accepted the offer. At the same time, things were ramping up with my startup, and I began to work close to 80 hours a week to cover my day job and startup duties. Over the next 2 years, my skills developed rapidly. The extra hours I put towards my startup paid back in dividends, and I became fluent in 2 distinct stacks and many overlapping technologies. Being put in the driver's seat as a full-time software engineer challenged me to design systems end-to-end, work through the build process, and maintain and update them. I was responsible for the architecture. I was responsible for the scheduling. I was responsible when things went wrong. Combined with the business sense that came from leading a startup, I began finding it easy to converse with many different departments about their duties, pain points of the job, and their views on the company products. But, as you know, I was eventually approached by Google, and the rest is history. So that's my story. I hope it motivated you to take the next step if you're considering enrolling at a boot camp, or if you're already in one or just finishing one. I know I had my ups and downs, but I really wouldn't trade my experience or do it over again for any reason. Every step along the way has led me to this point, and I like where I'm at. Take it easy.